Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. Glad to have you aboard this morning, this afternoon, whenever you're getting a chance to catch the Saturday edition. Appreciate you being aboard as the Edmonton Oilers, well, they find themselves squarely 4 days away from beginning the Stanley Cup Final for a second straight year against the Florida Panthers. History would tell you that the last two greatest players to play have had their moment in exactly this moment that Connor McDavid finds himself in, and I can't wait to see what happens here as well. As long as you don't fall down 3-0 to the Florida Panthers, it should very much so be a different series and a different outcome for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, lots to be said. Both teams seem to be better than last year. Both teams this, both teams that. The Florida Panthers this. I don't care. The Edmonton Oilers, they mean business. They're on a mission. That's all there is to it. So with that, before we get to kind of my admission here, let's get over to, if you are new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. There will be some details in this video that will explain kind of what's coming next for Dolynny TV as we transition through the Stanley Cup Final into the off season and ultimately to next year. So for the Edmonton Oilers, this year, a team that started 0-3, a team that was so banged up at the end of the year, you just might have had those doubts. How can they possibly put it together in the Stanley Cup playoffs at the most pivotal time? Well, I was one of those people, and I was wrong about this Edmonton Oilers team. And I have no problem admitting that, because obviously the benefit to that is we're in the Stanley Cup Final against the Florida Panthers. And I think the biggest thing here is everybody will sit here and criticize me for what I say or what I do here on the channel. And what we all realize is we're all just fans. We're all just doing our thing. We're all just having a good time. And nobody ever said when I started a YouTube channel that I had to be right. That's never what anybody said to me. They just said you had to be true and passionate about what you're talking about. And that's basically all I do. I just come on here and talk about what I'm feeling and what I like and what I don't like, and right, wrong, or otherwise. And that's for the Oilers this year. There's been a lot of things that, quite simply, I did not like about this team. I mean, you watched that 0-3 start back in 2024 when the season opened, and it was just pitiful hockey. And obviously that comes on the heels of letting Broberg and Holloway go, for which, me being a guy who's very invested in what happens in Bakersfield, you spend all that time developing those guys down there just to let them go for a couple of picks. That was gut-wrenching. Of course, I had to sit here and try and at least make heads and tails of it while also processing that loss. And ultimately, there was a lot of times throughout the year it looked like really the Oilers were missing those key ingredients they traded or let walk away, right? Fogle, who had a breakout year in LA. You had Ryan McLeod have a great year in Buffalo. You had Broberg and Holloway have the year they did down there in St. Louis. And then as well, Cody Ceci, who, for a lot of the season looked like he could have been a key member of the Edmonton Oilers blue line. But what we find ourselves in now, despite, some feelings of despair and stuff about some guys gone from last year's team, none of those guys are left standing. The Oilers, in fact, have eliminated a lot of those guys in their way. That's the crazy part, right? Cody Ceci's gone, Warren Foegele's gone. Obviously, the Oilers played some factors down the stretch for some other teams. It is just incredible to see that despite the turmoil, the change, the maybe a little bit of anger towards the team for some hiring decisions or some personnel decisions or whatever, signing decisions as well, this Edmonton Oilers team at full flight is just as good, if not better, than last year. And I think one thing I took a lot of exception to is everybody saying throughout the year that this team is worse than last year's team. I think really for me, although being wrong about what this team could truly accomplish, I think I always knew deep down that this team was a team that had the pieces to put it together. My problem wasn't the fact that they couldn't put it together. It was, can they put it together? And for the Edmonton Oilers here, they just, after game 2 against LA, you watched the look from Connor and Leon on the bench in game 1 against Dallas. It's just, there have been some pivotal moments in these playoffs where the Edmonton Oilers decided enough's enough. We're going to go out there and roll this through. And really, the other side to the issue is you think about how the playoffs went last year. The Oilers had a 5-game series, 6-game series, and a 7-game series. The Oilers this year have had a 6-game series and 2 5-game series. So you're talking about, knocking down really 2 games off the miles coming into the Stanley Cup Finals. And really, for what's truly different, the Oilers have probably actually logged more miles this year than they did last year. Well, maybe not. I think, yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you count that return because they were playing Vancouver in the second round, not Vegas, and have not had home ice throughout the playoffs. But still, it's just insanity to me that the Edmonton Oilers have done what they have done here in the playoffs to get going based on really where we came from at times this year. You got to remember, it's if you listen to the radio broadcast on the post game show in these playoffs, it's almost kind of a little inside joke for those who have listened all year. When the team on 880 Ched goes to light the Japanese Village goal light, which is lit every time the Oilers score 5 or more goals, that really, truly hasn't happened. It's probably happened just as many times in the playoffs in the limited games the Oilers have played. Don't have the stats to back me up, but the gut feeling, as it did all season long. And that's what was so hard about this Edmonton Oilers team all season long. They seemed like they would get going somewhere and then truly never would take off in full flight. They managed to have an incredible year, and maybe we were a little spoiled the year previous where they went on a 16-game heater and just absolutely tummied everybody in their path up until the last 2 or 3 games. But it's tough because this team, never really truly put it together to be the fearsome team that they are here in the playoffs. Whether you want to say they saved it for playoffs, whether you want to say just they got healthy at the exact right time, whether you want to say, some guys figured it out and decided to finally step up. You think of Matthias Janmark, you think of Connor Brown, you think of Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner in that category. But it's just crazy to me to think what this Edmonton Oilers team has truly done, despite what was a very mediocre playoff-bound 82 games from a team that has done exactly this in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs thus far. And now what leaves us here is we are in the Stanley Cup final. And I've doubted this team all along, and I think, is there any doubt left? I don't think so. That's what the point of the whole video is here, is the Oilers have done absolutely everything right in the final few games since the end of the regular season, right? It's been really, 16 games since the regular season ended, and we're on the doorstep of 4 victories to win the Stanley Cup. So you look at that, the Oilers have, in those 16 games, specifically in 14 games since going down 0-2 against LA, erased every single last doubt. I have a good record of, I keep checking all the YouTube comments, whether I'm posting or not, and there is not a single person in the past probably 2 weeks that has said this Oilers team can't do it, unless you clearly see them say go Panthers or go Stars. But it's absolutely incredible to me to see just kind of how things have flipped. And with that as well, here on the YouTube space, I think it's kind of crazy in itself where really the excitement from the fan base doesn't translate to anybody's numbers here on YouTube. None of the numbers I'm seeing on the YouTube videos posted about the Oilers on the daily, right? I've got a good list of everybody that does. None of the numbers are truly insane. What that tells me is not that Oilers fans don't care about what somebody on the internet has to say, or it tells me the Oilers fans don't care to listen about the Oilers, because trust me, I know Oilers fans care all about that stuff. It goes to tell me that the Oilers are truly a winning team. And what I mean by that is I know that the views for the Oilers historically, and this comes from not just my channel but everybody else's channel, are absolutely insane when the Oilers are at a point of turmoil, a point of whether it be conflict with player in terms of poor performance or contract issues or whatever. The views are always better when there's negative to talk about, and there is no negative to talk about. And that's where, again, I say I was wrong about this Oilers team, because I truly thought, it's self-serving if they're 0-5 against LA. LA is a better team this year, and the Oilers just can't put it together, it looks like. They did that. They've done even more against Vegas, and more on top of that against the Dallas Stars. And here we find ourselves on the doorstep of the Stanley Cup Final, ready to rock and roll for the second year against the Florida Panthers. Friends, whether you were wrong about the Oilers or you were right all along, don't really care. We get to enjoy this together and get going. Got some plans. Head up to Edmonton for June 14th. You might know why that date's important. and we'll hopefully be celebrating something pretty dang special. Friends, for right now, though, I'm up on out of here. Have yourself a great Saturday. We'll talk soon.